evening, everyone. Welcome to Stukeley. Oh, can I ask you all to go on mute as well? We avoid any interruptions. Right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Stukeley. It's lovely to see lots of you, albeit behind a black screen or on the Zoom. I'm genuinely sorry that we can't invite you all into the building this evening. It's just a little bit too early, I think, with the roadmap to do that. And I think we're joined by thousands of other schools in having to do this remotely. I will, this evening, myself and Mrs. Stevens will be giving you some details about when we hope to potentially have some visits into school. But at the moment, everything's remote. But we are available on the phone and we are available on email as much as people want and need to get you all clued up for your children starting in September. Regardless of the pandemic, regardless of all the challenges put in our way, we are very, very excited to invite a new cohort of children in September. Unusually, we have, at the moment, we still have quite a few spaces left for September. And I say unusually because by the luck of the gods, or just by the fact that I think hopefully we do a pretty good job, we've been close to full the last 7 years. And this is the first year that we've got a number of spaces. So every school wants to be full up, I'm sure. So we are, actively encouraging people that still haven't got their school place to apply. But for the time being, we're really excited to invite those of you that are on Zoom to listen this evening. I'm going to talk for a couple of minutes. Then I'm going to hand over to Mrs. Stevens, who is one of the assistant heads and the foundation stage leader. Mrs. Stevens is going to take you through some of the logistics around starting school in a few months' time. And then she's going to hand over to her team to give you some more advice and some more guidance around your child starting. We will do question and answer at the end, although I hope that we'll cover most of what people need to know in the next 45, 50 minutes or so. But, and this is really important, this is so important that I say it often at Stukeley, if anybody needs any information on anything whatsoever, please email in, please ring in, and we'll endeavour to get back to you as soon as we can. We are a very friendly school, I'd like to think. We are an open door school, so we very much encourage people coming to see what we're doing when they're able to safely, and we want to answer questions. Right. That's enough of the kind of the start off. I'm now going to do my 2 minutes and then we're going to get properly cracking. Right, so my name is James Singletary. I'm the head teacher here at Stukeley. This is my 8th year and I'm genuinely proud and delighted to say that most of the team that started with me 8 years ago are still here. We've had a few teachers move in and out, but we're a really strong team. We've got a really strong community and hopefully what we do at school speaks for itself. Our latest parent questionnaires gave us some really, really positive feedback and some action points to work on. And I'm delighted that after 8 years here, we're still all going strong. I'm still enthusiastic about what we're doing. We're still looking to make things better. We're delighted to keep inviting children to our school every September. I've got 3 assistant heads who support me in daily school life. The first is Mrs. Stevens, who is also the foundation stage leader. I'm not going to ask her to say hello because you're going to hear lots of her voice in a few minutes' time. But Mrs. Stevens is assistant head number 1, and she also looks after year 1 as well as foundation stage. I'm then going to introduce you to Mrs. Page. I'll actually hand over to her now to say hello, and she can just give you a couple of sentences on her role as well. Mrs. Page.
Yeah. Hello. Good evening, everybody. I can see some faces. I can see some names that we recognise too, so which is exciting. Welcome to Stukeley. Time will fly very quickly. So even though it seems like we're getting ready for September and starting school now, I'm sure it'll be very soon before they'll be in year 2 or maybe even year 3. So they're the year groups that I particularly look after. Welcome to Stukeley.
Thank you, Mrs. Page. Many of you on the Zoom will already know Mrs. Page because your other children may well have been taught by her. Then I'm going to hand over to Miss Barry, who is assistant head number 3. Miss Barry, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm Miss Barry. I lead year 4, 5 and 6, so the upper end of the school. But as Mrs. Page has just said, the time will fly by at Stukeley, and yes, it won't be long until your children are actually in year 4, 5 and 6, so up to the top end of the school. So hope you enjoy the evening.
Excellent. And actually what Miss Barry didn't add there is that although she teaches in year 6 and looked after year 4, 5, 6, today she went and dipped her toe in foundation stage. Had a great afternoon down there. Right, then I'm now going to hand over to Mrs. Johnston just to say hello. Mrs. Johnston, I'll leave you to give your big introduction.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Johnston. I'm the Special Educational Needs and Disabilities Coordinator. I'm non-teaching and 3 days a week, so I have quite a bit more availability than if I was teaching. And I share my offers with Mrs. Holloway, who supports me in everything I do. Thank you, Mr. Singletary.
Thank you so much. And just to add there, so while Mrs. Johnston specialises in children with SEND, as she said, with educational needs or disabilities, Mrs. Holloway, while she supports Mrs. Johnston with that, she also looked at family and pastoral work. So we're proud of the extended services that we offer. We have a number of people that are released from class duties in order to support children in their kind of wider curriculum and in their wider pastoral lives, and families too. Right, and now I'm not sure, I didn't prime Mrs. Wing for this, but I'd like to give Mrs. Wing her moment. Mrs. Wing, would you just say hello, because families are going to see more of you than ever. Mrs. Wing, just say hello, please.
Hello, everybody. That's it.
That's it. Mrs. Wing is one of our office team. They've been surprisingly quiet over the last year and a bit because of the pandemic. We've had a lot less people on site, but they look forward to welcoming people. We still do have visitors come in, albeit limited at the moment. And the office team are also there to answer many a query and a question about school life. So I'm just going to do the initial introduction there, and I'm going to leave Mrs. Stevens to do the rest. I'm now going to hand over for you to hear more about foundation stage life, how to prep, things to think about, things that you need to do now, and then I'll join you. I'm staying on the Zoom, but I'll join you again at the end if we've got any questions and answers. Mrs. Stevens, over to you. Let's do this.
Good evening, everybody. So nice to see lots and lots of people on here. I've just kind of flicked through my iPad screen and seen lots of familiar names and faces. So really lovely to see everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to start, first of all, by introducing the incredibly important foundation stage team. And we have Mrs. Williams. I'm kind of looking where I can see everyone on my screen. We've got Mrs. Williams, who teaches for 2 and a bit days a week in foundation stage in Juniper class. So would you like to say hello, Mrs. Williams?
Hello, everybody. I'm Mrs. Williams. Yes, I teach 2.5 days alongside Mrs. Gavigan.
Okay, thank you. And Mrs. Gavigan, would you like to say hello?
I'm muted. Hello, everyone.
Now we can hear you.
Oh, good. Hi, everyone. I'm Mrs. Gavigan, and I work 2.5 days alongside Mrs. Williams in junior class.
And we have Mrs. Booth.
Hi, everybody. I'm the other class teacher in foundation stage, and we'll be doing 5 days a week in foundation stage.
Thank you so much. And we have 2 of our teaching assistants from foundation stage who have joined us this evening. Would you like to say hello, ladies?
Hi. Hi. I'm Mrs. Pedley, and I work alongside Mrs. Booth.
I'm Mrs. Jacobs. I work along Mrs. Gavigan and Mrs. Williams.
Thank you so much. We have a number of other teaching assistants that work with us in foundation stage as well. And some of those may be working one-to-one with children, but we have some class TAs as well. So we've just got a few of them joining us this evening. So thank you to everybody. The purpose of this evening is really just to give you an overview and an insight into what starting school will look like in September. It will also be an opportunity for you to ask any burning questions that you may have, as Mrs. Singletary said, towards the end of the evening. So I will kick straight off. I have got notes because I absolutely don't want to forget anything. So if you see me glancing down, it's because I want to get everything right. So we realise over, as Mrs. Singletary said, over many years of working together, that starting school is a really big deal. And it's a big deal for your children. And if it's a big deal for your children, then it's a really big deal for you as families. And we completely understand that. We will do our very best, therefore, to support you every step of the way. And tonight is just kind of the starting of that process of working with you, our families, to get everything ready for school. The other aspect of this is that we also realise that given the kind of year or so that we've had, that you may feel a little bit more kind of anxious around that starting school process, because whilst we're kind of looking and the government are presenting us with a roadmap out of the pandemic, you will know that school life has been very different over recent months and certainly in the last year. Whilst we cannot set anything absolutely in stone, we can say that at the moment, September looks like school will return pretty much to normal as far as we know. And so we have put all of our main things around induction and transition for your children into September, because it felt a lot safer and securer to do that, as in we felt that it was more certain that the situation will be much more normal by September at least. So we didn't want to be too much dependent on government roadmaps and what may or may not happen in June. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. First of all, what I'm going to do, I will be kind of giving you some dates and things and times. Please don't think, oh, I've got to scribble it all down. You will receive in early July a transition pack. In that transition pack will be key dates and times, as well as information about uniform and information about school lunches and all of those bits and pieces. You will receive a transition pack in early July. That will be very bespoke and individualised. So it will be about your child specifically. So don't worry about scribbling anything down. I will give you just a general kind of overview of that transition process. Just for your kind of, so you can kind of get things into your head, but please don't feel under pressure to have everything scribbled down this evening. First of all, so transition and induction at Stukeley. What we will be doing in the coming weeks is talking to key workers from all of our feeder preschool settings. That will be, in most cases, I suspect, by telephone. And we will be calling them to talk to the key workers so that we can find out lots and lots about your child before they start school. We know that that is a really important thing to do. It gives us plenty of information about your child, about their interests, about their strengths, about their development points. It tells us things about their friends and all of that stuff that really helps us make sure that we can help your child settle in smoothly to school. It will also help us with making decisions about classes, for example. We will ask them about which friends from their preschool, if they have them, which friends would it be good for them to be with when they come to school. And so those conversations are really, really important. And those will begin in the coming weeks. So that's the main part of what will happen this side of September. In terms of the actual transition into school itself, we will be meeting with you as families on an individual basis from the week or from the 2nd of September. So on the 2nd, the 3rd and the 6th of September, we will be having meetings scheduled to happen in school, where you as a family can come with your child to come and have a good sort of 20 minutes with the class teacher. It will allow your child to kind of look at the environment and the setting. They will have a chance to play in the actual classroom with our TAs that will be available. You will be able to talk with class teacher, and it will just be an opportunity for you to ask those really specific questions that you may want to ask the teacher, and to kind of even just know where their peg's going to be, and where they put their water bottles, what do they do with their book bags when they come to school, where will their lunch boxes go, just that kind of stuff that perhaps, you know, in the scale of things doesn't seem really, really important, but to you as a parent settling your child into school, you need to know that kind of stuff, and it makes you feel better about that whole process when you can kind of see the lay of the land, and you can see how everything is kind of set out in the classroom. So that will happen on those 3 dates. We will give you an appointment time, and that will be within your transition pack. So you'll be given a date and a time for that appointment. If there are days that you absolutely cannot do, you might have booked a family holiday, for example, please, if you email the school office and just let us know, we will try as our very best to accommodate any specific details around that. Okay, so on the 2nd, the 3rd and the 6th of September, there will be allocated individual time slots to come in and meet the teacher and bring your child into school for a quick play ahead of them actually starting school later that week or in the following week. So that's the first thing. Then on Wednesday, the 8th of September until Friday, the 10th of September, we will run half days for the children. So your child will either be given a morning slot or an afternoon slot. All that does is kind of allows your child to come to school in a slightly smaller setting, at least just in those initial days, just to get used to being at school and just some of the really simple coming in routines. You know, in a busy classroom context, by the time we've got children coming in the morning, you can imagine how busy it can get in the cloakroom area, for example. So we like to just have half the year group come in for a morning session and then half the year group come in for an afternoon session. That way they just get a little bit of that closer attention with the adults, a bit more opportunity to get to know the adults over those few days, and to be able to begin to understand a little bit more about school without it being too full and too busy for them. So it just allows for a gentle transition into school. So that will be from Wednesday the 8th of September until Friday the 10th of September. Then the following Monday, which is the 13th of September, that's when all the children will start school full time. Okay, and that will include lunch. The half days will be no lunch. The children will just have a snack and a drink to be brought in with them. And then from the Monday, there will be full school days. And we are in the process of confirming what those timings will look like for September. So that will be 4 days from week beginning the 13th of September. The reason we try and bring the children in full time fairly quickly is that we realise that a lot of children are at nurseries and preschool settings and they're doing full days already. We also appreciate that, you know, a good number of our families will be working, and it can be quite tricky to kind of negotiate half days and things. We realise that. And so we kind of keep that kind of half days part of our transition fairly short so that we can kind of help our families out and work with you. So that's our kind of reasoning behind that. Very lastly from me, you'll be glad to know, is the baseline assessment. I'm not going to say too much about that, but you may be aware, and if it hasn't been mentioned on the news recently, I'm sure it will crop up again over coming weeks and months. But last September, the foundation stage children were due to be one of the first year groups to do an official government baseline assessment. And that baseline assessment would be used to kind of track their progress throughout primary education right through to year 6. So they have a kind of proper starting point and then measured progress until kind of the end of year 2 and the end of year 6. That was due to have begun in September last year. Yes, that is last year. I'm losing track. But with the pandemic, etc., it meant that they decided to put that on hold. And as far as we currently know, the government are telling us that we are going to be carrying out the baseline assessment this year. The only thing I want to mention to you about this and why I brought it up is that we have been involved in an early pilot scheme of that. So we are fairly secure in knowing that we kind of understand how it works and we know what that looks like. We will not be assessing and sitting your children to a test in any description at any point, and we certainly won't be assessing them as such the minute they walk through the door. We believe it's really important for the children to form really secure and positive relationships with the staff that are going to be caring for them in foundation stage, and that takes time. So my one thing that I want you to understand about this assessment is that you don't need to worry about it, and that that will happen once we are convinced that children are settled and are in a really good place to begin their learning journey at school. So that's all I'm going to say about baseline. Again, there's plenty that you can read and Google if you were interested about that, but that's what it will look like at our school. Just to reiterate, all of those details, I know all of those dates and when you're going to have a homeschool visit, whether your child's going to be a morning session for those 3 days or an afternoon session, all of that will come to you in the transition pack, along with which class they will be in and who their class teacher will be, early July, probably about the week beginning the 5th of July. So all of that information will be made very clear to you, all in black and white on a piece of paper, so that you can keep everything together and know what is going on. So I hope that whistle-stop tour just gave you that flavour of how things will look in September. But the most important thing is that your child's happiness and well-being is so important to us, and they will be very safe in our hands, and we will make sure that transition to school is really positive for both you and for them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over first of all to Mrs. Williams, and she is going to talk to us about some of the practical things that you can be doing at home in the next weeks and months, which will support your child in that transition process into school and get them school ready. So over to you, Mrs. Williams.
Thank you, Mrs. Stevens. Right, I'm just going to share, hopefully, my screen. Here we go. So here are our Stukeley 6 for school readiness. Now, these are all very practical things, and they're things that you're probably all doing already, but it's just things that are going to help us and help your child to make that transition a little bit easier. So the first one is for them to be able to deal with their toileting independently. So that's including wiping their bottoms and washing their hands. And obviously over the last year, we know how important washing our hands is now, and we in school still encourage the 20 seconds of washing hands. So as if you can do that as much at home as well as we, then that will help us in school. Being able to dress and undress with minimal support. I would say probably one of the biggest things to start with is their coat. There's so many children will come to us that can't put their coat on or zip their coat up. So it just helps them to get outside and enjoy the environment a bit quicker, rather than having to wait for us to put 30 coats on. And zips will come in time, but they can get their coat on, that's the start. And the same with jumpers and cardigans and things like that. We will change for PE at some point during the year, but initially we won't be changing for PE. And we are hoping that we are going to be able to have a forest afternoon at least once a week, where we will ask you to bring in waterproofs and wellies. So practicing putting those on will also help us and help them. Recognising their own name is really helpful. It will help them if they've lost a cardigan or a jumper. And we also do a self-registration. So they will come in the morning and find their name and put it on our board. So if they can recognise their own name, they are able to do that independently. And they like to come in and find their own name. They like it when they see their own name, and there'll be at the moment we've got animals, so they put it on their favourite animal. So they enjoy that, so finding their own name. So that will just be working with them, looking at their own name. You can write it for them. Looking in shops, like when you've got books with their own names, bottles with their own names on, can they find their own name, things like that. This is quite an important one, actually. We find a lot of children, when they initially come to us, aren't confident in helping us in asking us for help. And this can be to go to the toilet, to help with their snack, to even where the toilet is initially. So just talking to them in probably the weeks coming up to when they're going to start, showing the picture. When you get your bespoke transition pack through, there'll be a picture of the class teacher in there. So showing them the class teacher, talking about how if they're stuck or struggling or unhappy, to come and find one of us, and we will then be able to help them with what they need. Strengthening their fine motor muscles. Now, these are the muscles that they use in their hands to hold a pencil, and these are the muscles that they will use when they are writing during the year. We found that their fine motor muscles aren't developing as much as they used to, and there are a range of things that can help with this. And on my next slide I have put a selection of things. So Play-Doh, really good, just squeezing it as hard as they can they squeeze it through their fingers? Can they use scissors to cut the Play-Doh? Can they push things into the Play-Doh with one finger? Any Play-Doh play will develop their fine motor muscles. Using pegs, can they peg any number of pegs onto a piece of paper, onto a board? And just, it's quite a hard skill to develop. So if they can squeeze that peg together to open it up, they're using all the muscles they need to when they're for writing. Threading, it can be pasta, it can be Cheerios, it can go onto string, it can go onto long pieces of pasta. It's holding that, and that also will develop their hand-eye coordination as well. Tweezers are good, similar to pegs. They're using that squeezing motion. Scissors, fine motor. Scissors are really good for fine motor, and also just for general scissor use. A lot of children struggle with scissors, so just working with your children at home, can they open the scissors, can they close the scissors? And then finally stickers. All children like stickers, but being able to peel the stickers off from the sheet and then sticking them onto the piece of paper. You can create a picture, you can just stick as many stickers as you can onto a piece of paper, time them. All different fun activities like that will help them to strengthen their fine motor muscles. And then being able to concentrate and focus on self-chosen activities for around 10 minutes. I think the important words here are self-chosen. Initially, if they can choose an activity that they want to do and focus on it for 10 minutes, they are where they are where we would expect them to be, and they will then enjoy the activities that we've got available. And it might be that you have to start with 1 minute. Some children will flip from thing to thing. They'll do something for 10 seconds, then they'll move on. And it's just you encouraging them to just stay there for that little bit longer than they want to. And it may be a case of building it up, starting at 1 minute and then slowly building it up. But just encouraging them to do that little bit extra when they're beginning to get a bit fidgety, and then that will develop their concentration and focus. And that is all.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Williams. I'm now going to hand over to Mrs. Booth, and she is going to talk to us a little bit more about preparing in terms of the learning. So less about some of the practical skills and a little bit more around some of the learning activities. Thank you, Mrs. Booth.
Try again. Good evening, everybody. So I'm just going to take you through a little bit about phonics and maths at Stukeley, and save one little slide at the end from last that hopefully is something you know about already. So phonics is something we really take seriously at Stukeley, and we follow a synthetic storytime phonics programme, which, as our children will all tell you, reading makes you brainy and phonics helps you read and write. And our lovely phonics fairy guides us through those synthetic story-based phonics. So every day we'll have a story that will introduce us to a new sound and a new caption action. So don't be surprised when your children start coming home and going, Pirate Pete, because that's one of the multisensory ways we embed the sounds, and the children are then able to read them and write them. We also have a lovely little friend called Tricky Troll that may come in and teach us our tricky words, and also Harold the Parrot that will come in and teach us how to blend and segment our words to help us read and spell. And normally, and we'll be trying to do this in person, I hope maybe this year, we'll run a phonics session for you to help you understand a little bit more about how you can help your child through the phonics programme, and a little bit more about what we actually do. But it is a programme that we run daily, every single day with the children. So some of the things that you can do to help prepare your child and support them for school to aid with their reading and writing are some of the following. So enjoy looking at books, sharing stories, joining in with familiar tales, maybe getting your child to verbally retell a story or talk to you about a book that you shared together. Encourage children to notice text all around them, words in books, on cereal packets, signage. It's funny how quickly children learn certain things like Argos and McDonald's signs, or at least that was my daughter. First word she could read was McDonald's and Argos, although that makes me look like a terrible mother. So we'll move straight on. But all of those things, or what the first name of your first letter of your name is and what the sounds are. So one of the things that you can also help with your children is talk, and more talk. The more conversations and the more you talk and share vocabulary with your children and develop their language, the greater they will be able to find the ease of reading and writing going together going forward. Additionally, having lots of conversations together as a family, maybe that be at dinner time or whilst going for a walk, or talking about what you can see in the park or on a car journey, or what you're listening to in the car, and maybe talk about what children like and don't like. Enjoy singing and other nursery rhymes. Children really don't worry about how our voices sound. They just really enjoy some of those singing and nursery rhymes, and that can also help with number going forward as well. So encourage mark making, provide children with lots of paper, pens, crayons to explore marks and perhaps even attempting to write letters. But what we would say is, don't feel your children need to come to us competent readers or competent writers, because that is not how we expect them to enter school. There may be occasionally the odd child that can, but please don't think we need your child to come to us and able to read or write. It's sometimes better for us to have children that have had all of those lovely talking experiences and listening experiences about what they can hear when they're outside, that they're ready then to learn their phonics and read and write. So you can encourage your children to attempt to write their name, trace it first, then copy it next. But please try and have capital letter for the first letter of their name and the rest for lowercase. But please bear in mind, there is no expectation that we expect children to be able to read and write as they enter, because that is very much our job, and we will start all of our phonics programme right from the very beginning, so we're all starting on a level playing field. So moving on to our early Stukeley 6 for maths skills. So encouraging your children to enjoy and join in with counting songs is a really easy way of embedding the number sequence and counting with your children. You can then follow that on by having your 5 little ducks went swimming one day, either as pictures or projects and taking them away, how we start with 5 and it reduces down, counting a whole variety of things and compare sizes of groups. If mummy has 3 oranges and Jack has 2, who has more? Those kind of examples, and counting the actual object themselves. It's not just about counting really, really high numbers by rote. It's about looking and playing with the blocks and the Lego bricks and the teddies and the dollies and the cars, how many we've got, how many are we going to drive into the garage, things. Very, very playful maths. Playing games that involve snakes and ladders or counting games, so dice rolling games are absolutely fantastic. Also really, really helpful to develop their personal and social skills going forward. And talking about the numbers that children see around them, so talking about your number on your house, numbers on cereal packets, maybe numbers on boxes of waffles or other, you know, how many sausages does mummy need to get out? We're all going to have 1 sausage each, or how many sausages are in my pan? All of those things, sharing packets with chocolate biscuits on, bars, 5 packets of Mars bar or treats or whatever. One of the other things that's really, really important, and there's been lots and lots of buzz around at the moment in the maths world, is about noticing shapes and patterns in the home and in the local area around them, particularly the environment. If children can start spotting shapes and patterns within the environment, it really does help them solidify their math skills going forward. And children's brains with regards to patterns and maths around patterns and shape are really elastic at this age. The other thing that we look at is using and exploring everyday language with relating to size, weight, capacity at time. So it'd be really, really good to be talking to your children, maybe when you're making a cake together, or what weighs more? Is it the flour or is it the 2 eggs? Thinking about capacity in the bath, it could be, oh, my pot is full, my pot is empty, or just having conversations around drinking your cup of water at dinner time. Oh, it was full, you've drunk some, now tell me about the cup. And when we talk about time, it's about thinking about times of the day. Is it the morning? Is it the evening? Is it nighttime? Is it daytime? All of those maths related conversations will really, really be helpful with your child going forward and help their understanding and also help their Stukeley readiness for maths going forward. But all of this can be done in a really, really playful way, whether it be in your sandpit, maybe at home, in the bath, around the dinner table, doing some baking. It's very much about exploring maths in a playful way. So our final little bit of news that some of you may be aware of is that in September, the early years foundation stage has got a new and updated curriculum. Many of the areas stay the same. However, a lot of the areas have now been linked to using a broader approach, especially for maths. We're going to be following a lot more what we call mastery approach, that we'll share more information when they join us. But many of the areas are using lots and lots of books and literacy to explore the world and the environment around us. And there's lots more emphasis on the early overarching principle of enabling environments and using the adults within the classroom to support and develop and bring your children on. So some of you that have had children with us in the past may notice there are some slight differences, but it's very, very much a deeper, broader approach, a lot more emphasis on language and extending vocabulary, because all of those areas really improve the development of a broad-based curriculum, which is why they've introduced lots of literacy and lots of talk. So it's really exciting for the team because we get to have a really look at what offer we make and looking at really broadening where we can go. And it's just nice for us to really sort of look at what we've got and where we can improve and develop and make coming to foundation even more exciting. So really look forward to having your children in September. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Booth. Right, we realise that on these evenings you kind of have a lot of information thrown at you, as it were. I hope, however, that through that information you've managed to kind of take on board some real nuggets that are going to be really good for you and your child as you kind of over the next weeks and months headed for school. And I hope that you've at least just kind of gathered a little bit of a flavour of school life and what things are going to be like for your child when they join us in September. I'm going to hand back to Mrs. Singletary in just a moment to round up our evening. But thanks to staff for just giving us that little bit of insight there. So over to you, Mrs. Singletary.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Stevens. Right, everybody, just before we finish, there will be a chance to ask some questions right at the end. I'm going to leave that until the very end so that any of you that have got much more exciting things to do can log off, can sign off, and then Mrs. Stevens and I and the Stukeley team will stay on the Zoom if anyone's got any questions. Let's round things up. Thank you to everyone for being a part of this. I know we'd all love to be doing this in school and love to be giving families a tour around and taking questions and showing videos in the hall, but it isn't to be. I'm hoping, I think I said this last year, I'm hoping that the next time we do this, we'll actually be able to do it in person. Anyway, but thank you for all staff who've extended their day to do this. I'm really appreciative of that, and I hope the families are too. Secondly, as Mrs. Stevens has said, we've given you loads of information. If you want to know anything else privately, rather than sharing it here in the Zoom, please email in. Please email into the office@stukeleymeadows.cambs.sch.uk, and then Mrs. Wing and the team will forward those questions on to myself or Mrs. Stevens, and we'll get back to you. But please do not hesitate to get in touch. We will be sending out in early July all of the confirmed information around transition. So you'll be getting all the dates sent to you. You'll be getting the details about transitioning into school. You'll be getting everything we can possibly send you in early July. It does not mean you can't contact us beforehand, but please don't ask us for dates, etc. before the early July, because we've still got a number of things to do in order to get them confirmed. We are on Twitter. Many of you will know that we have quite a strong Twitter presence. So if you aren't on Twitter at the moment, you may need to get your heads around it ready for September. There'll be a main school account, and then there are lots of other offshoot accounts. And I've just tried to set it up now, but I need 400 email addresses to do it. So I keep using up the same emails. We are going to have a Stukeley Early Years 2021 cohort Twitter, and that will put out any updates just for your cohort starting in September. We will send you information about all these things when we set them up. We'll also put together a little welcome video, which is specifically for children, and we'll be putting that out on our YouTube and on our Twitter account, and we'll post that and let you know when it's posted, so you can show your children that video well in advance of them starting. And we also try and get other little videos put together and little maybe staff reading stories and so on and so forth. We'll put them all onto our social media just so your children could become more engrossed really in what we're doing. We have daily assemblies which go out on YouTube. I can't vouch for the quality of them. They range from the bizarre to the peculiar in terms of what we do. If you type in Stukeley Meadows into YouTube, you'll get a flavour of the kind of curriculum and broad range of community work that we do. And also we've got our school website, so have a good look on that as well. And if you don't know families that are already at Stukeley, but you know of some, talk to them. Go and talk to people whose children already come here or have come here in the recent past. We don't get everything right, but we try our jolly hardest to make sure that if we don't get it right the first time, it's better the second time. So we do look for feedback, and we do look for people to try and help us shape a very exciting future. To be honest, I think that's it. We're about 46 minutes in. Thank you for the McMahon family for putting on the chat that the assemblies are good. Yes, we have a lot of fun in assemblies and beyond. So I would recommend having a look at those. And to be fair, the children all join in with the first 2 or 3 minutes of assembly because it's our strap lines and our school mantra. So actually, maybe we should add to the preparation PowerPoint, get your children to learn the chants and the values. That might be a good start for school. Anyway, there endeth the official part of the evening. If you log off now, you're not going to miss anything other than a bit of a Q&A with Mrs. Stevens, myself and the staff. So thank you all for joining us. As I said at the start, we'll be uploading this recording to our YouTube channel, and we'll then tweet it out off the main school account. So if you just search for Stukeley Meadows on Twitter, we will tweet this out via YouTube on our account so that you or any other families can watch it back. Thank you all for joining us. Feel free to log off, and I'm going to hang around for a little bit longer, as is Mrs. Stevens and others, if anyone's got any questions. Thank you all. Have a lovely evening. We cannot wait to get going properly.